Hello, this is Kirill from forexpo.com and welcome to the 16th tutorial on algorithmic trading for beginners. And in this tutorial, we're going to be talking about functions in MQL4. So, what are functions? Functions are very similar to a blender. Let me explain. If you take some fruit and you put it into a blender, then as an output, you will receive a very tasty and amazing fruit smoothie. So basically, you take fruit, you put it in a blender, you get a smoothie. Functions in MQL4 and essentially in any other programming language work on a very, very similar basis. All you need to do is you take some input variables, you put them into a function, which is a blender in this example, and you get a result as your output, which is our smoothie in this example. And so that's basically how they work. Let's see how this all materializes in practice. So here I've prepared tutorial number 16, a blank script like we usually do, and we're going to create two values in our onStart function. We'll create a value int a, and we'll give it a value of we'll give this variable a value of 10, and we'll create a variable int b, and we'll give it a value of 5. Now we want to add these two values, but we don't want to just like we usually do. We don't want to just say c equals a plus b semicolon, because we already know how to do this. We want to use a function to add these two values, and basically we want to take this bit and we want to outsource this calculation to a designated function. So we'll get rid of that for now, and we'll create a new function, and this function we will call my addition. So that's the name of our function. Now within curly brackets we have to specify what this function will accept as parameters. In our case, it will accept a value, an integer value, which will be value 1, and another integer value, value 2. So those two values have to be separated by comma, and you can give them any names you like, but the main point of this declaration part is to actually tell the user of the code that will be using this function what kind of parameters you are acceptable to be passed on to this function. So in our case, this function can only accept 2 integer values. Next, we want to say what this function will be outputting. So our function will be outputting an integer value, so that's why here at the beginning we'll type int. We don't put any name afterwards, we just type int, and that means that this function will be outputting an integer. If you recall the diagram that we looked at previously, so this will be a fruit, or this will be a specification that you want what kind of fruit or what kind of objects you are allowed to put in the blender. This is the name of the blender, and this is the type of smoothie that you get as an output of this blender. So this part is called a declaration of a function, and often in programming languages you will see a semicolon at the end, and this part will be separate to the actual body and description of the function. It could be in a header file, it could be at the top of this file somewhere here, but in MQL4 we don't have to worry about that. We don't need to create declarations. We're not going to worry about that. We'll just create the whole function right away, which will save us some time, and it's just easier to understand that way. So after the declaration we need to enter or specify the body of the function, what exactly it will do. So we're going to add 2 curly brackets, and within these curly brackets we have to write the body of the function. I hope you're noticing some similarity between this part and this part. So also keyword, name of function, brackets, and curly brackets, and the body goes in here. Correct. That's because this onStart part of our program is actually also a function. It's a predefined function, but it still is a function. Now, within the myAddition function, we want to specify what exactly our function will do with these two variables. So we want to add these two variables. We want to go value1 plus value2. And so if we put a semicolon at the end, what will happen is these two values will be added, and then they'll be basically the function will finish its execution, and they'll be forgotten. We actually want to return the sum of these two values to the calling code. So here we'll write return. So we want to add these two values. The result, we want to return it, and then we put a semicolon, and that will basically means the end of our function. So here in C, we want to call our function. So we'll take myAddition, we'll copy it here, and within the brackets, as you can see, MQL4 is already prompting us what it wants within these brackets, and it has to be an integer and another integer. And also MQL4 is telling us that the function will return an integer, and it's getting this information from down here. So we want to pass two integers, which will be a and comma b, and then we have to put a semicolon on the end. So that will add the two values a and b and put the result into variable C. How can we check that? We can check that very easily with our alert statement. We'll type in C equals comma, and then we will type in C. So this is a text, and this is actually the value of C. And once again, alert, and then brackets, semicolon. Does that remind you of this? That's correct. That's because alert is also a function. As you can see, a lot of our program actually consists of function because it's a very convenient way of separating your code. So now let's get back to this and compile. No errors. Let's go to the terminal. There we are. And so now we will drag our tutorial 16 onto this chart. Oh, that's an existing order that we had. Actually, I won't drag it now. I'll just close this order for now, so it's not in the way. All right, so tutorial 16. As you can see, C equals 15, which is correct. Now if we go back to our code, we can easily change the function. If we want to multiply, we put a star here, compile, go back to the terminal, and now if we pull over tutorial 16, you see the result is 50. C equals 50, and that basically means that we've just changed the function. We can also divide one by the other, compile, terminal, C equals 2. So that's basically it. That's how functions work. They allow you to outsource bits of your code or separate it, and then you can very quickly modify it, and you can use this function many times within your code. And imagine if you had two more variables here, d equals 100 and int e equals 20, and you wanted to do the same thing with them. You could just copy the function, and you could go type in de here, and now you're using this function twice. But if you want to change what this function does, then you just have to change it once. So it actually speeds up the process. It's a very convenient way of programming. Let's go back to the presentation and see what is next. So the result can be of two types. The result can be an output value, as we have seen, or the result can be an action. An action such as display a message, which we have seen in the case of the alert function. What it does, it doesn't add anything, but it actually displays a message on your screen. A function can draw an object. A function can open, close, modify an order, and etc. And this particular case, when a function opens an order, we saw that in the previous tutorial when we used the order send function, and it by passing parameters into that function, it created an order for us. And also a function can do the combination of these two. It can do an action, and it can output a value at the same time. And let's go back to our previous tutorial, just quickly, tutorial 15, and look at the code here. If you remember this code, it actually gave us a warning, and so we'll compile this now. And it compiles, but it still gives us a warning. It says return value of order send should be checked. And if we go into order send by clicking F1, here we can see that order send actually returns an integer. So it not only does an action after receiving all of these parameters, meaning it opens an order, it also returns an integer. And we won't go into a lot of detail at this stage, but this integer actually it carries an important function. It tells us, or important purpose, it tells us whether or not the order was opened successfully. And if this integer is less than 0, then the order was not opened successfully. And that's why the compiler is asking us to check this value. So ideally we should have something like int result equals order send, and then here we would have some code to check result. So if we compile that now, we won't get any errors, because the compiler is happy that we're accounting for this returned value and we're checking it. But we'll go deeper into this further on through the course. At this stage, we should just remember that functions take input variables, and then they have an output value, and they do something within their body, which can be an action or some manipulation of the values, and most of the time they return a value. So that's that. That's quite a lot of information for today. So maybe have a look at this function and this code, and create some of your own personal functions, maybe addition, subtraction, maybe add some more variables into this code, just to understand how functions work and how you can use them in your own programs. And we will definitely be using them going forward, because in the next couple of tutorials we're going to be looking at closing orders using the order close function, and modifying orders, and so on. So that's it for this tutorial. Don't forget to click subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and I hope you'll visit my website www.forexpo.com and subscribe to my newsletter there as well, so you can stay up to date with everything. And until next time, happy coding.